Hello teacher, hello friend, my name is Joyo Pimentel. I'm a student of medicine in the third semester of medicine. Today I will to talk of the war against tuberculosis. What is tuberculosis? Tuberculosis or TB is now in English is a disease causes the bacterial of microbacterial tuberculosis. These bacteria usually attack the lungs. Etiology agent of tuberculosis. Exists 6 types of etiology agent of tuberculosis. The number 1 is Mycobacterium tuberculosis. The number 2 is Mycobacter bovis. The number 3 is Mycobacter africanus. The number 4 is Mycobacterium africanum. The number 5 is Mycobacter microtis. The number 6 is Mycobacterium carnetii. What is the history of tuberculosis? The history of tuberculosis backtracked on the advances of tuberculosis in medicine. The consumption was being on the white plague and the half and the bean terminology used the place of the designative one of the older infection diseases and humanity has experienced the tuberculosis. That disease causes the bacteria build up on the salt-colored Mycobacterium tuberculosis complement, remaining under indispensable for more and the humanist history. Origin of the disease. The application of modern techniques in modeling on the molecular genetics and the sequence of the microbacterial genome have unlowered on the sciences of the stimulus and the chronology and the origin and the Howard theory under appreciably diverse behavior the variance of a conclusion. For several years, Mycobacter tuberculosis was considered to have involvement on the front on the Mycobacter bovis, the causal agent of bovine tuberculosis, the attendants on the terminal and the animal pathologies on the human host. The sanitarium. The sanitarium on the second and the 19th century and the fresh and the attacker and the nutrition were considered on the half the therapeutics and the effects on tuberculosis in patients. All procedures. In the second and the half of the 19th century, reference hard on the adequate and the nutrition were considered on the to have therapies on the effect of the tuberculosis patient. Based on this concept, in the first sanatories, the ones on the in the Mozart on the Silesia on Germany, the region the Silesia, and the later many and the other emergencies and the rest of the world where the work and the implemented and the new therapeutics and the procedures such as the thoracoplasty and pneumothorax. Presentation of a clinical case and about tuberculosis. A year-old adolescent and his housewife residents and the municipal and the capital who living in the household and the headquarters with alcoholic relative pulmonary tuberculosis. Abandoners in the treatment and the Delhi and the November the 2014 and the death on the December 2014 its beliefs and the respiratory symptoms causes be considered on the with yellows on the green expectorally and the generally in the afternoon and the night and their heaven the tag and their third all under their head that pie and a parasite on the later afternoon. She accompanied these pictures lost on the appetite and the decadent. She consulted the doctor in the hair held under impossible treatment under amoxicillin. She continued the same on the first day of January 2015. On the goes again. She every started on the sedimentation on the 130 mm for hours. She indicated the spiritual examination gave the life on the day of the words results undermine the respiratory and the nervous systems. Then the beliefs on the noticed well and the mother, the list on the have the ward of course the hospital were on the administration to profession the share the radiology and the stand the talking on the general their state. How is tuberculosis spread? Tuberculosis is spread from one person to another. The draw on the air bacteria are released into the hair and the person and the will with TB disease and the lungs, on the thorax, on the gums, the skin, the tongue, or the street. People in the body can bring in these bacteria and they will become infected. Prevention. Prevention of tuberculosis. Many people will land on the TB infection never get TB disease. For some people who have underlined the TB infection are more likely than the others to have the TB disease. People in the rings on the part and including the following. People with the HIV infection. People who were infected with the TB bacteria in the two parts to the 2 years. Barely and the young children, people who inject illicit drugs, people who have other diseases that weaken in the immune system, elderly, people who have not received a current treatment for tuberculosis in the past. Signs and symptoms of tuberculosis. Symptoms of the TB disease depend on the area on the body where the TB bacterium and the multiplicity. TB bacteria usually multiply in the lungs pulmonary tuberculosis. Tuberculosis disease in the lungs and the cancer, 6 months, and the short the flooding. Severe causes on the less the 3 weeks of months. Chest pain, loose on the board or the stirrup, the spirit the stand come from the body and the lungs. Other symptoms of tuberculosis viruses are workings on the fatigue, wines sterile, the loss of the appetite, wines can see fever, night station, symptoms on the TB disease in the other part of the body dependent on the area affected. People on the Greenland with the TB infection do not feel symptoms, is not sleep, and they cannot pass all the TB and others. Treatment of tuberculosis. Tuberculosis disease can be treated on the tracking and the severance the medication over the period of 6 to 9 months. There are century drugs approved by the use Food and Drug Administration (FDA) for the treatment of the tuberculosis unknown the proven drugs. The first line and the tuberculosis drug, which was their class and the treatment regimen included the fluoride. The number 1 is isoniazid. The number 2, Dramamine. The number 3, ethambutol. The number 4, pyridoxine. Reflection and contribution of tuberculosis. Tuberculosis is a bacterial disease and isolation affects many people on the world. Its trajectory is the more than 200. To date, activities training and the spin on the arduous, the start on the fort, the hand sciences, but with the sacrifice of the thing being possible. Now, in every world job, especially governments, to provide the best CEG in the vaccine table for not just to prevent in open the population, the free charging and the accessible on the third sector the population. For the Angelo, the whole require the superficies on the apartment, then it is important to give in the necessary attention and do avoid the infectionities and the others. Perseverance health is everyone's yours. Thank you very much.